Well, Court, last time out, hard fought win. I know that was a big one for you doing it in Utah, man. Talk about just that fight, how you felt about your performance, and kind of what you took from it.
I felt really good. I felt really good in the performance, but it was kind of like it was challenging because I found out that the fight was going to happen in Salt Lake, and so it was. I think I was the one that released it on Twitter that we were fighting in Salt Lake. And then Joe said, hey, I said I want to be on the card for sure. And I said, but I need my knee fixed. And so we got into surgery 2 days later, and I had my meniscus trimmed out and taken out. And that was I think almost exactly 6 weeks before the fight. And that was on a Friday, and I found out on Wednesday. So I had the surgery, and then by Monday, I was with Rob Hanley at Absolute MMA. And we just did my first 3 practices sitting down, because I had knee surgery. So it started off, and then it was great, but I was so excited because it's they've never fought in Utah, and they almost had a card, but it got canceled because it was on a Sunday. And it's I just thought it would be like a feather in the cap type performance, to fight in front of my fans, because a lot of, fans in Utah are mine, and they, a lot of them can't travel to Australia or Canada or wherever. And so it was just nice. And it was an incredible experience. Training went really good, other than starting off with a knee surgery 6 weeks out. But within a week or so, I was back and doing everything that I needed to. My weight was a little heavier, so the weight cut was, it was pretty bad. It took a lot longer than usual, but it's to be expected with coming in like that. And then, I had a great performance right off the bat. I hit him with a straight right, and I dislocated my elbow. So if you watch the fight again, I didn't throw another punch, and I didn't know what happened because I've had bunches of hand surgeries on this right hand, some on the left too, but more on the right. And I took him down, and I got him in a rear naked choke, and I was squeezing and pulling, and I couldn't grip really well, and I couldn't really figure out what was hurting. But later on, after the fight was over, my elbow swole up. But I didn't know if it was my hand. I didn't feel it was my wrist or my elbow. And so after that, I tried to throw a couple of punches. I couldn't throw punches, so I ended up making it a wrestling match. So it's kind of the whole game plan was to punch and move because he was so good at grabbing guys, taking them down, and he had gnarly ground and pound. So it was we'll punch and move, and if we need to wrestle, we can wrestle. But it ended up turning into a straight wrestling match, and so it's just, you have to kind of adapt, man, and you never know what's going to happen. But we prepare for all those things, and I've been, I've trained with this guy and that guy and this type of person, and I have great training partners, and I have great coaching, and I'm well prepared when I step in there. So, but after, man, it was an incredible experience. I couldn't even hear my walkout music when I walked out. It was so loud, and it was just I don't know. Both of my sons were in the audience, and they have never been live to one of my fights. My older son has been to some of my events, but not both of them. And so that was really cool. And my wife and my dad and my brother and sister-in-law, and it was just I had lots of family. And I mean, just thousands and thousands. I mean, it was an incredible experience. And when they announced the win or whatever, it was just it was deafening.
It was a main event atmosphere, man. Yeah. It was incredible. I mean, it was such a special night, and then being the type of battle it was, kind of emotional back and forth, man. It was definitely something to experience as well.
It was awesome. So and then we got offered a short notice, but it didn't work out, and then Joe texted me and said January 15th against Ben Saunders. And so we agreed, and then it was off training again. And I had my 4th degree black belt test under John Hackelman in Hawaii. And so a lot of us tested as Chuck, Glover, and a lot of the other black belts, going to 2nd degree, going to 4th degree, a couple of to 6th degree, and we all did it in Hawaii. And I found out about 2 weeks before, so I started training, but it was 12 weeks out, and I thought that my fight was going to be about 6 weeks from then. And so I technically started training about 12 weeks ago, and I have a teammate, Steve Seiler, who is getting ready for a World Series fight. And so we both started amping up our training, and then I went and basically the week in Hawaii, the first 3 or 4 days was like gnarly 2-a-day training. And then our graduation, and then me and my wife did hikes and swimming and snorkeling for the last 3 or 4 days. And then we came home, and then I started Monday morning back working striking and mitts with Rob at Absolute. And we just started rowing wrestling that night, just right into it. And so we're prepared, we're ready. My weight's significantly lower than, like 4 or 5 pounds lower than what it was going in at pre-weigh-in. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then I feel good. There's no injuries, no surgery 6 weeks out. And it's been the training has been really, really good. I had 2 or 3 guys that showed up that haven't showed up for the past 2 camps that are really, really good. One of them's Jason South, and he's got to be 15 or maybe 18 and 3 as a pro. He's retired. He had a shot kind of into the Ultimate Fighter house and got beat by probably the best guy in the house and didn't get another shot, and then didn't get a shot on the Salt Lake City card, but he left. But he's 6'3", he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. He's long and he's southpaw, and he's just like Ben. And so I've had he was there, and then I have Steve, and I have Ramsey Nijum and Brock Jardine and Josh Berkman on occasion, and so our training has been just really, really good.
Very cool. So, talk about Ben Saunders. I mean, he mentioned. I could see on social media you guys have a lot of respect for each other, and he mentioned that you guys met. I guess kind of when you were getting ready for the Ultimate Fighter finale, I believe, as he came to train with Chuck. So, and just talk about what it is about him that you like. I mean, why is it that you do have that respect?
Well, I moved to Chuck's place because at the time I didn't have coaching in Utah, and I was getting ready for this finale, and so I went out and. They brought a bunch of southpaws because Chuck was getting ready to fight Rich Franklin. And so they brought like Luke Rockhold and this Davin and 4 or 5 other guys and Ben. And we were doing the same type of training that we're doing now. And so I was just incorporated with that. And Chuck's fight was a week before mine, and mine was the finale a week after. And so we trained side by side, but he came out on a couple of occasions. And I think he was brought out to help Chuck get ready, and he was like 12 weeks out of the fight. I mean, I remember it, and so he wasn't quite ready to step it up, and so he trained but me and him, we trained almost every day that we were there. We grappled, we did wrestling, we did all the things that we were doing, sparring, drilling, and bag work, and grappling at night, and conditioning. We went on some runs, and we had mutual respect, and we had, we're both martial artists. We both kind of about the same time in our career at that time as we are now, minus the fights in the house and my very first fight. This is my 30th fight, and I believe it's his 30th fight as well. So it's really similar. And ever since then, I've followed his career. We have the same nutritionist, and I spend a lot of time in San Francisco with Jake Shields because he was one of the coaches on the show, and so I made that a part of a lot of my training camp and some training outside of training camps. And Denny's out there, who's a 10th Planet guy, 2 or 3 guys from there, and then Scott Epstein was also one of the coaches on the Ultimate Fighter show. So I worked with those guys, and they had great stuff, and so I've kind of, and I've been around that. I'm a fan of Eddie Bravo's and 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu and how it was founded and what and so it's like we've kind of like had the same group, and we've just followed each other's career. So I think we both have respect. I mean, I have tremendous respect for anybody that I compete against. I don't know, and it's just one of those things. He's an acquaintance, and he's somebody that I followed and that we've all kind of intermingled with. But it's like that with a lot of, I mean, I think when I signed my contract with the UFC, there was like just over 200 people competing in the UFC, and now it's like double that, but still that's if you divide out the weight divisions, I mean, there's like 30, 40, maybe 50 guys, so you kind of know each other. And I've been in the UFC now for almost 7 years, so it's like you fight your friends, you fight your acquaintances, and when you sign the contract, you're getting ready in preparation for competition. And the night of competition, like, the best thing you can do is go out and compete as best as you can. and that's just what I do every time. I do it. It's my job and it's my career, and it's awesome.
No doubt. It's coming off the big win that you had. This, I think, would be another big win. I mean, Ben has been around for a long time, and he's a tough guy. I think on paper, it's the kind of fight that looks like it could be another grinding kind of fight of the night type fight for sure. But what do you think it's going to take? I mean, consistency, I think, has been the struggle that you've had, to kind of keep things going. What's the focus this time around to maybe turn that corner and get some consistent wins built up?
Well, it's like we've had, so looking back, like, I 4-4 in my last 8 UFC fights, and I had, the only thing that's ever kept me out of competition was injury. The only thing that ever keeps me out of training, because I always, the week after the fight, if I'm not injured, I'll be back in practice. I just kind of cut it back to like 1 practice a day, and but the injury, like I had 3 surgeries go bad on my right hand in a row, and it kept me out. And by the time I got back to where I could start training again, I had been out for over a year. And it was like, do I still have the motivation to prepare like you need to compete against the best guys in the world? And like it's a lot of motivation. You have to have a lot of motivation, because I can't half-ass stepping into the cage. It's not right for me. It's not right for my fans, my family, because then you can get hurt, and you can get hurt anyways. But you have to be prepared. And so coming back, I have a lot of motivation. I fought 3 times in 8 months, which is more active than I've been since my first or second year. But I mean, I've fought 6 times in 7 months, and in my first year I fought 10 times, and I had 2 professional boxing matches and 30 competition jiu-jitsu matches. So it's kind of like I've competed, and I've been in, I fought 4 times in 6 weeks on the Ultimate Fighter, and I fought 4 times in 6 weeks for the Utah State light heavyweight tournament against DeMarcus Johnson was the guy I fought in the finals for the light heavyweight title. And so it's like I've done this, and I've been prepared, and so I know no matter what I go into, I'm good, but I'm healthy, and I want to compete, and I'm not forced to compete. I mean, I've fought injured, man. I fought in Australia one time, and I had staph infection and shingles. And I had the antibiotics and the steroids up until like 3 or 4 days before weigh-ins. And I mean, it was the most painful weigh-in I've ever had. And I mean, it was horrible, and there's no way I could get myself out of it. And I ended up, I mean, it was like really, really, so it's like I've been through the gamut, and now today I'm in a good spot. I'm in a good spot spiritually, physically. My sobriety, everything in life is really good, and I'm competing because I want to compete as a martial artist, and and I train to fight, and I fight to win, and I have the same game plan as I always do, and that's to find a way to win and just be overwhelming and sharp. And I'm a pressure guy, and I like push, but I try and be sharp in pushing. And so finding the spots where I can hurt them, and that's the same consistency I've had my whole, decade that I've been fighting. But it's like I'm able to kind of take one step. Like there was one thing I wanted to improve on with that last fight, and that's what we focused on. So I changed one thing. Everything else was consistency and the same thing, which has been overly successful. I mean, you look at a 4-4 past record. 3 of those 4s were split decision or unanimous decision that could have went either way against guys who, I mean, like some of the best guys in the world. And so you're telling me I lose a really close match that could possibly, if I would have won, nobody could have argued, and if they won, nobody could have argued. It was, and it's like, okay, well, I need to change one little thing, and that's all it's been my whole career is like, okay, so we focused on that one thing this time, and I think, that could give me the edge to step in and start, edging out and beating those guys or finishing them, getting in a position to where I can finish. So, I don't know. We made a few little changes. Not anything overwhelming. It's never anything drastic. Changing everything doesn't always work, and I haven't done that, and I think that consistency is what's made me successful. And it's like I've had the opportunity to do that this time. So I don't know. We're going to see Sunday night.